This is where the big boys play, huh? We ain't here to play. At the total combined weight. At the total combined weight of 589 pounds.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, at well over 500 pounds, this is where the big boys play.
All right, welcome to the show, everybody. This is At a Combined Weight. Thanks for clicking the link that brought you here on PWInsiderElite.com. Or if you're enjoying our beautiful montage of video and pictures over on YouTube, thanks for clicking the link there. I'm your host, Charlie Dudley, joined as always by Robert McElroy.
How you doing, Charles?
I'm doing all right.
I just got through telling Charles here, we've been going through nitros like shit through a goose. I'm looking forward to it becoming a one show at a time kind of a thing like we were doing. But it's good that we're getting caught up and we'll be 20 years to the day, which is definitely the goal.
Yeah, so we got a late start at this. Just schedules couldn't match up. And so what we've done last week, if you listen to episode 11, we combined 3 Nitros and Hog Wild. And today we will combine 3 Nitros and the Clash of the Champions.
It'll be specifically Nitro 48, which happens in Mean! Woo! By God! Casper, Wyoming, woo! Gene!
Yeah, the August.
Sorry, I've been watching. I watch a lot of old Ric Flair promos, and that's my favorite type of Flair promo. Of course, he's not into that kind of. He's not in that gear yet, but he's evolving into that kind of crazy fuck.
Yeah.
But Casper, Wyoming. How many wrestling shows has Casper, Wyoming seen? At least of this caliber.
Not very many. Not very many.
So. No.
Yeah, this August 12th, 1996 portion of, or edition of Nitro. Commentary opens the show. Dark days are upon us. WCW 2 days ago, for them, it was odd that Hog Wild was on a Saturday and Hulk Hogan had won the WCW heavyweight title. And Larry Zbyszko said that he's kind of dressed for a funeral, disappointed with the rest of WCW, and then they do your favorite portion of any post pay-per-view Nitro. They show the stills from the pay-per-view.
It's all I had to work with. As a kid, I used to look at those and be like, "Whoa, photographs from the pay-per-view." Oh my God! So like, that's what you see when you get to see the pay-per-view. That's incredible.
So, jumping off of the clamoring and the excitable nature of the fans, they jump to an 8-man tag with High Voltage, Rough and Ready, Dungeon of Doom, short, nothing match. Rough and Ready beat up High Voltage after Rage gets pinned by Ming. Then we have Sting and Luger come out to the ring, call out Hall and Nash. Nothing happens at this point, though. And then we have DDP versus Renegade, which is another nothing match. DDP gets the win with the Diamond Cutter. The first real segment that bears talking about is the NWO backstage segment, Hall and Nash promo on Sting and Luger's challenge from earlier in the show. Their typical running down of WCW, the Giant, Sting, and Luger. I thought that Hall and Nash, and not that this is news to anybody, but Hall and Nash come off so damn cool.
Yes.
And just chill, laid back. I mean, there's a reason why they got over as heels and people started cheering them, because all the things that they said were kind of true.
Yeah. I like this segment a lot, and I remember watching it live, actually. And the part that stood out to me the most about this segment when I watched it as a kid, they started talking about how they're going to change the design of the belt. And I thought, oh no, you can't. You've already defaced the thing. What else could you possibly do? And I think there's a different promo that'll come up in several Nitros ahead, very similar to this one, where they're just kind of chilling on the couch talking. They talk about taking those two little plates off the side of the really big portion of the big gold belt and putting like their own little thing there.
Yeah.
And I remember that freaking me out a lot. In watching this, though, as a 30-year-old who's a much smarter fan, much of the same. Hall and Nash come off extremely cool. Hogan at times was just downright nonsensical.
That was the word I used, rambling. I said Hogan comes off kind of chill in that he's not, something, dude, brother. He's just kind of relaxed, but he just rambles. It's like he's not very good with improv at all. And
no,
I guess when you're a babyface and you're pushing the prayers, the training, and the vitamins, nobody really gives a shit what you say. But when you're a heel, I guess maybe it's just me as a discerning fan, I was just like, what are you talking about?
I got the feeling that Nash, because Hogan kind of cuts him off at one point, Nash in his head is probably going, what the fuck are you doing, Hogan? I've got a good thought going on here, and what are you really trying to tell me?
Yeah.
What's like the vibe I got from Nash during that?
Well, and I think that, to me, the NWO could have been so much cooler, which I guess they really weren't going for, like, the coolness factor, if Hogan was a different type of Hogan. All he was, he just became a chicken shit version of prayers, training, and vitamins. He cuts the same type of promos, same kind of candor, same kind of cadence in his voice, a lot of the same language. It's just, like, mean. Instead of, like, there's a lot of brothers, a lot of dudes, a lot of somethings. Hall and Nash just come off so cool in everything that they're saying.
But let me pose this to you. If his gimmick was different and more likable and matched Hall and Nash's coolness, I think that probably might have made NWO too likable during this point in time.
They were likable. They were one of the black and white NWO T-shirts from, like, this point on, like, from 20 years ago to right now, is probably one of the best-selling shirts of all time.
No doubt, but they're not selling, well, whether or not they're selling NWO merch
not yet,
now at the shows, not yet. But, dude, they're disliked by most of the crowd right now.
Yeah, now.
There's shit being thrown in the ring.
But, see, he doesn't change it. He doesn't change his shtick. Maybe it's just my, like, overall dislike for, like, the Hogan character.
That has something to do with it. I mean, he's definitely not as awesome as Hall and Nash as likable, cool-ass people. But I'm here to tell you, 10-year-old me, who was watching this at the time, and a lot of other us kids at the time, I mean, most of us hated these motherfucks.
Oh, yeah. 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 For sure.
I mean, that being said, we see this sometimes in wrestling, where guys just get over too well when they're not supposed to.
Yeah, I mean, it happens.
It happens from time to time.
You have to allow as an organic character. I don't think Stone Cold was supposed to get over the way that he did as a heel. And, it turned into a double turn at WrestleMania 13 with he and Brett. I mean, it's just sometimes wrestling fans, they don't go with what you think they're going to go with. Up next, Conan and Jim Powers. And the only reason I wanted to talk about this briefly is that Conan cheats to win. They're putting over, he's kind of turning into a little bit of a heel. And then he says, Arriba Mexico. And then he runs down the NWO. So he's starting to throw in the Latino chants that will make him famous.
Yeah, the good folks of Wyoming weren't too wild about Konnan.
No,
did you notice how much they shit all over him during this?
Yes,
And
yes.
Mean Gene even, like, you know, him being the grandfather of wrestling, was telling the kids, no, wait, I don't know why y'all are yelling at him this way. I don't know why. And he was like, I don't think I'd ever seen that before from an announcer trying to get the crowd to think another way mid-promo.
Right. Yeah.
It was interesting to me. But
yeah,
he puts over the fact that he's behind WCW. It's funny, like some of the heels during this time, even though they are known bad guys, they're having to reiterate, look, I'm not with these assholes. I'm with WCW. I might be a piece of shit, but I'm with WCW. We're seeing that from a lot of guys around this time.
Up next, we had Chris Benoit versus Ron Studd. Decent match. It was just billed as a way to get Benoit over, that he could handle a giant. Okay, woman looks amazing.
Very smart. Oh, sorry. I was going to say I think that's very smart booking.
Well, yeah, but that was the whole point of him facing this guy. Very impressive superplex spot where they both go up and Benoit chunks his giant ass over his head. It's just pushing Benoit giant at Clash of Champions. And did I mention woman looked amazing?
Yes, you did. She is just one gorgeous, gorgeous woman.
Yes, definitely. Then we had the Steiners Harlem Heat. Kind of a decent match here. Backdrop to set up the three-way tag team match at Clash of the Champions. It'll pit Steiners Harlem Heat, Sting and Luger. These two teams work well together, I think. There's a good mix of technical action with your power spots that you're always going to see from the Steiners. And you've got that athleticism, that good in-ring work that you'll see when Booker T's in the ring and when Scott Steiner's in the ring.
Absolutely. You know, it was during this match that I realized this was a Nitro that I had recorded on VHS. And I would temporarily just break it out, throw it in the VHS player, and watch it if I would get bored. I've talked a lot about how when I was a kid, that was mainly what I did. I would just watch VHS tapes of wrestling that I would go rent. Well, in this case, I had one, and the recording started. It was during the beginning. It was at the beginning of this match, so I didn't quite get the entire Nitro. So this Nitro felt more familiar and more nostalgic than probably any we've previewed so far.
So that's funny. I can remember recording stuff, and one specific, I recorded a Saturday Night's Main Event that had, it was Warrior and Savage were feuding. And I don't really remember anything else that was on it, but I remember having Savage, they were showing how they were like leading up to their feud, and Savage had busted the Ultimate Warrior with his scepter because he was the Macho King at the time, and it had cost the Ultimate Warrior the heavyweight championship against Sergeant Slaughter at the Royal Rumble. And I was so pissed because I remember watching the Rumble, and it just infuriated me. Also on that was the Ewoks Battle for Endor. It was a TV movie.
What a 90s-tastic tape.
Yeah, very much so. Decent match again, like I said. Steiners.
We have the Steiners. Who were those guys again? We were talking about wasn't it the Steiners? Versus Hearlem Hurt.
Oh shit! We've gone off the rails already. Fuck.
We did. We were off the rails from Jump Street.
Okay.
I think my shit's a little more together. I'll proceed. Up next, we get Ultimo Dragon versus
No,
Rey
I wanted to
Mysterio.
talk about the Steiners.
Oh, I'm sorry. That's right, because you were on the Steiners. Go ahead.
The Steiners win via DQ. And Colonel Parker cost Harlem Heat the match. Booker T and Stevie Ray, they get angry with him. One of the Steiners is going for a suplex, and Sherry holds on to the leg, and I think it's Booker T lands on him. And then you see Colonel Parker like flip through the ring like he's a drunk man, and then they get DQ'd. It was a stupid finish, but it's kind of pushing the idea that the Harlem Heat, they got too much shit going on outside with Sherry and Colonel Rob. So I feel like that's going to play in. It hasn't started playing into them yet, but it will, I think, down the line. Up next, Ultimo Dragon, Rey Mysterio Jr., Cruiserweight title. About what you'd expect from these two guys. A really good match.
Yeah, I enjoy any time Rey Mysterio's in the ring or any time Ultimo Dragon's in there. In this case, we get both of them. Love how Ultimo Dragon came out with the red mist. He spews the red mist. And Shivani's like, oh, look at this. It's a little... No, it was actually, I guess, Bischoff at this point. A little intimidation from Ultimo Dragon. And Heenan's like, well, either that or he got a hold of Miss Guerrero's chili. Or Mr. Guerrero's chili, whatever he says. But Mysterio gets the win in a really, really cool looking spot. And it's in such a position where you feel like Ultimo Dragon has the match won. You even see Sonny Ono go, that's it! That's it! It's one, we got it! It's it! But
yeah, it's a sunset flip out of a powerbomb.
Yep.
Ultimo has him up, and earlier in the match, Ultimo hit a running powerbomb, which was sick. I mean, stuff that we've seen, countless times in the 20 years since then. But around this time period, the stuff that they were doing in the cruiserweight matches was groundbreaking, especially on a mainstream level. Because a lot of the stuff, like the cool wrestling type stuff, had been seen in ECW, but like I said, we didn't get ECW down here.
No.
So
I do not believe the WWE, or in this case the WWF, they weren't having cruiserweights left and right on their cards, were they? I don't remember them being on.
No, not at all.
See, I didn't think so.
WWF was playing catch up during this time period.
Yeah, I mean, WCW really struck gold there. That was wise to have that as a part of their mid to lower card for sure.
Yeah. The next match, Ric Flair. Nice.
20 on the dot.
Next match, Ric Flair versus Macho Man for the United States Heavyweight title. Bush off. God damn.
Right as you said that, I started thinking about the Steiners again.
Bischoff puts over the Macho Man really wanting this. The two had fought already before Bash at the Beach, which it didn't really make sense. They were acting like these two guys haven't fought recently. But despite that kind of lapse in memory, I guess, or continuity, pretty good fire to this one compared to their last one that we bitched about, or more specifically, I bitched about because they were promoing against each other. They just started after each other.
They did. As a kid, I wanted the Macho Man Randy Savage to kill Ric Flair. I hated Flair around this time. Of course, now he's one of my favorites ever. I wanted Savage to tear him the fuck apart.
Yeah.
As I remember. But this was, like you said, a lot of fire. Love how much these two guys got after it.
The woman gets involved, kicking Savage, adds a little bit of leverage to the figure four as well. Pretty good back and forth match. Flair clotheslines the ref accidentally. Then it sees Hogan come out and get involved. Nails Macho with the chair. And I don't think he was supposed to hit him as high as he did. Because he hits his head and the part of his shoulder blades and ends up busting Macho open, allegedly.
Dude, you see mist come off of the first chair shot. That's how hard it was. Because, Macho Man's obviously sweating.
Right.
And he hits him. Look at it next time. You see just it looks like something from Looney Tunes how they would just draw in smoke on someone's wound.
Right.
And there's just fucking mist that just comes off of Savage's back. And even as a youngster watching this match, and I watched this one a ton because I had it on tape, that second chair shot to the head, you fully believed he was busted open good. I mean, you fully believed it.
Bischoff and Heenan intimate that Hogan showed favoritism to Flair. He's coming out and helping Flair. He never looked or took a step toward Flair. And so they start talking about, could Flair be the fourth or fifth guy? Could he be involved in the NWO? And this kind of harkens back to when Flair no-showed that one Nitro and they were trying to say that he was in the limo. So it kind of that air of what Larry Zbyszko calls paranoia, but them just kind of questioning everything and saying, you know, who is next? Where's the next guy going to come from? Mean Gene interviews Hogan next, asks him about the Booty Man and the direction of the NWO. I thought this promo was terrible.
You know, it was this promo where I got there's a dark cloud hanging over World Championship Wrestling. It was directly from this. So at least we got that. Yeah, it wasn't very good. What did stand out to me, though, was that Hogan talks about how he doesn't want one hair missing from the head of Ric Flair when he faces him. And that's why he did what he did. So you did get a little explanation there.
Yeah, it's a little bit of an explanation, but I mean, Hogan calls General Custard and struggles to say the word categorize.
He had trouble. He was steenering all over the categorize.
Yeah, he was.
He had trouble with that one.
Apparently Savage was stretchered out after the Hogan chair shots. It kind of plays into, you know, Hogan doing some damage to Savage. Also kind of plays into the Clash of the Champions that's coming up right after this Nitro. Main event, Sting and Luger versus the Outsiders. Bischoff's kind of freaking out, and then therein lies a problem for Bobby Heenan, as no one can find the Outsiders. It's time for their match, but they don't come out to music. They just come out through the crowd. And then Sting's music plays, but only Luger comes out. And interesting to note, Nick Patrick is the ref. And as the match gets out of control, he leaves. And then there's video evidence that they focus on, and then they push over the next several weeks how Nick Patrick pulls Hall out of the way of a Stinger splash. This match was just kind of okay. It was just kind of a fight with wrestling moves. It wasn't really a match with no really tags or anything. Most of the time, all four guys were in the ring or all four guys were doing something.
And it does establish here and in the next several weeks how Nick Patrick perhaps can't be trusted.
Right.
He would be a backdrop for so many different matches from here forward. When Nick Patrick was refereeing a match, we had one eye on Nick Patrick, or at least the broadcasters did.
Yeah. And they wanted you to. I mean, they were pushing the fact that, you know, could he be trusted? You know, there's one match that Shivani brings up every time he does a count. He's like, well, that one was not out of the ordinary, and Larry Zbyszko calls him, you know, paranoid. You need to get rid of the paranoia.
Well, at least it's a break from how much he likes to talk about things are manly or not manly.
Right, right.
That is the most sexist motherfucker that ever...
He really is
ever broadcasted a match, a football game, basketball.
Yeah, he is very misogynist and prejudiced as well. You kind of look back at it now and just kind of... It's odd.
It is. It's a little much.
Horseman hit the ring. Outsiders run away. Horseman stand tall with Sting and Luger. And then Flair promos about Clash of Champions, saying that each member of the Horsemen can match up with an NWO member. Pushing the Clash of Champions. Hogan, Flair.
Oh, guy, you should have saw. I was so fired up when he looks at the camera and says, "Get a wide angle!" To make sure, because, like, that made me think of every Horseman promo ever cut. There always is that wide angle.
Well, you can get everybody.
So you can get the whole damn crew and their belts that they hold in a very specific way. He told the cameraman to get that wide angle. I had a special kind of adrenaline flowing throughout me, Charles. I loved it. And he intimates, look, Luger, Sting, I don't like them, but I'm going to play ball with them. I think they did such a good job around this time period of letting us know, yeah, we have to deal with NWO, but there was a WCW here before their asses showed up.
Right.
And we still have old feuds to deal with.
Yeah, exactly.
So I think it's very well done all around by WCW, for sure.
That's going to wrap up the August 12th edition of Nitro. Moving on, August 15th, 1996, Clash of the Champions, the day before my 12th birthday. This Nitro took place. Interesting to note for those of you who listen, who'd like to send me a birthday present, belated as it may be. I accept gift cards and cash. Just DM me and I'll send you my address and you can send us cash, and Robert and I will go hang out in Atlanta and whatnot.
PayPal, Venmo, we'll accept it any kind of way.
Yeah, that's right. Clash of the Champions opens with a hot opener, just how you want to do. The Clash of Champions is odd. It was always odd to me that this is the era of only the Clash of the Champions, because back when I was exposed to the Clash of Champions, it was doing battle with like Saturday Night's Main Event. It had its WWF equivalent. Now, in this time period, it didn't. And they kind of went by the wayside. There wasn't really anything of much substance that happened on a lot of these shows. But I remember watching a Clash of the Champions. It was one of the first times I'd ever seen WCW. And I was like, this is wrestling, but it's not WWF. So I kind of watched. And it might have been the Black Scorpion revelation.
Okay. Yeah, I don't remember watching Clash of the Champions ever. I promise you, had I been hip to it, that I would have eaten it alive. I mean, I was going to watch anything wrestling related anyway.
Right.
And it came on TBS.
It was the Black Scorpion.
Okay.
And because it wasn't Flair, but they had talked. Flair had kind of been in that drop back. So I mean, that was 1990. That was my first exposure to WCW. That was around the same time as the aforementioned Warrior Macho Man feud that ended with their WrestleMania 7 retirement match.
I would get really into Thursday Night Thunder once they get that ball rolling.
Yeah, I never really was a big Thunder guy.
Well, I was a big WCW guy, you see, especially around that time period. I mean, I had a Monday Night Nitro to watch, and then Thursday night, I had more wrestling. So
it opens the show, Rey Mysterio, Dean Malenko, Cruiserweight title. Good fire to start the match. Crowd got into it early. Tenay put over that it was Mysterio's 4th title defense in 6 days. These two are just so fun to watch. I could just watch Malenko and Mysterio matches all day.
Oh, absolutely.
And they're just so the innovators of that popularized style from this time period, and you see so much of that kind of bleeds over into these guys that are coming through and that are popular now. Your AJ Styles, Seth Rollins, Finn Balor, those type guys with a lot of innovative type stuff and just, stuff that you'd never seen before. And I remember just loving Mysterio back then, and I really liked Dean Malenko just because of the action. You had innovative offense all the time, just stuff that you're like, holy shit, I've never seen this before.
Do you think these two got a little too lost in the shuffle with the NWO storyline and all that? I mean, do you think these guys deserved a better push around this time?
I think a lot of the cruiserweights deserved a better push at the time, but I think these two guys were carried by guys like us, but older.
Sure.
Your smart fans that really enjoyed the work rate. They loved, guys, Mysterio, Malenko, Benoit, Jericho, those were your guys from this time period. And it helped that they both had stints in ECW as well.
Yeah, I think they are pretty much where they ought to be on the card, and I'm cool with it. It's just when I look back, I go, man, one of WCW's problems was that they didn't let these guys, they didn't give them enough of a push once they got to the point where they probably needed to.
Yeah, they didn't care about that shit, man. The NWO was on top, and Hogan and his guys, and then you brought Russo in, and the whole damn thing went to the shit. Malenko pins Ray, but Ray's foot was on the ropes, and then Ray rolls him up as Randy Anderson's taking the belt from him. Really good match. Really what you wanted to kind of get started with if on a show like a Clash of the Champions to kind of hook your audience. You know, somebody flipping through the channels, you're like, oh, this is wrestling, and you watch that, and you're like, well, shit, I'm going to watch the rest of it. And then they'll change the channel when the next match comes on, Hacksaw, VK Wall Street, terrible, terrible, the whole fish taping gimmick, and then you have the Nasty Boys segment, which was okay. Knobbs goes nuts about them not being in the triangle tag match and wanting a title shot, but it's just, I don't know.
Well, we're starting to get a very butthurt Knobbs here. He wants to be in the tag title picture, and he feels very disrespected. He's always pointing out in his promos about how, you know, he don't really care what the NWO's doing. He doesn't condone it, but I'm just a member of the Nasty Boys, and to hell with the rest of you. I just care what we're up to.
Yeah, never been.
He continues to push that.
Never been a huge fan of them, but
there were two really great action figures of mine, so.
That's the only reason why you like them. I guess that would be the only reason why I liked Virgil, because his action figure was really good back then. He could do so much stuff with his Hasbro figure. If you Google it, just look at it, and he was holding belts all the time, and he was terrible in the ring in real life, but he had great work rate for me. I knew how to push him properly.
Jerry Sags had a terrific punching hand.
That's how it was. Virgil's hands were perfect for punching and DDTs and neck breakers and like stunners and all kinds of stuff.
Oh, he'd have gotten a push in my roster too then, for sure.
Up next, Ultimo Dragon versus Conan. Just an okay match. I thought it kind of forwarded Conan's heel persona. I would expect more out of these two guys, but like I said, most of the matches on this show were pretty short. And they were just kind of there in I wouldn't call them filler, but it wasn't. Malenko Mysterio was the longest match on the show.
I like that Mike Tenay makes a lot of Conan's bitterness after having lost the U.S. title.
That kind of turns him into.
Yeah, but I like this is the only time that I feel like that's been really pushed. I had to kind of think for a minute. Oh, yeah, he did have the U.S. title right before Ric Flair.
Yeah, because he lost it to him.
Yeah.
Then we see Scott Norton attack Ice Train in the back during a CompuServe promo, continuing their feud from Hog Wild. This kind of transitions into what is supposed to be Macho Man versus Ming. And Macho Man doesn't show up. And interesting to note, you know, previously I talked about how after I watch the shows and everything, I'll go back and I make notes on the show based on, like, what's going on in that time period. So, like, the old lariats help me out. You know, Dave has a lot of those on the Elite section. And in the old lariat, it talks about how Macho Man didn't even travel to Denver and was never even supposed to be there.
Oh, wow.
So they brought Ming out, and Macho Man was not even in the building. He was never supposed to be a part of the show at all. So, but it just kind of was used to get over Hogan's dastardly heelish actions and busted open Macho.
I love how they announced the forfeit and that Ming wins. Jimmy Hart celebrating the way Jimmy Hart does. But Ming is just standing there very confused.
Yeah, because he doesn't know what the fuck's going on.
He does. Yeah, he's like, wait, I won the match, but I haven't beat the fuck out of anybody yet.
Yeah, exactly.
This is real weird. I love that. I mean, it helped that Hart was celebrating so hard, so there was that juxtaposition of the two characters, but I thought that was hilarious, and it played into Ming's barbaric ways. Oh, wait, I didn't, no fight match yet. I haven't even, I love how he's always kicking at the camera. That is my
Yeah, like he can't speak English and all that kind of stuff. Like Ming's never been able to speak English his entire wrestling career.
It absolutely played into his character perfectly. That's what stood out the most to me.
Medusa Bull Nakano, return match from Hog Wild. Stiff, those hair throws to where Nakano, like, threw Medusa by her hair, look like they hurt. I mean, it doesn't hurt to pull my hair, but if I was a girl and I was getting, like, chunked around by it, I think it would not feel good.
No, it would hurt like hell. Good stuff from the ladies around this time, but we don't get it a lot in WCW.
Well, just from these two, they're the only people that ever wrestle, and Malia Hosaka.
Yeah, which they need to bring her back. I've enjoyed getting to chronicle her young career.
I enjoyed Medusa crossbody and Sonny Ono from the top, and then Ono accidentally kicks Nakano, leading to Medusa rolling her up. Quick match, just fed into, the quick matches that they were having on the Clash here. Then we have a backstage segment, Flair, Liz, Woman, Flair promos on Hogan, the NWO. Flair says nothing has changed. It's still Flair and Hogan. It doesn't matter that, Hogan's a bad guy and he's, supposedly a good guy. It's still Flair Hogan.
I love how Flair points out, look, I don't beat up my best friend because I can't. Intimating that Arn Anderson is one badass dude.
Right.
He's my enforcer. If I tried to beat his ass, I don't think I could do it.
Yeah.
That's
basically calling Booty Man a bitch.
Yeah, that's what he's saying there. I think that's so funny. And he says he has a horseman to match every single one of you. He's got a Arn Anderson for your Kevin Nash. He's got a Chris Benoit for your... Who did he assign who to? Was it Benoit for Hall? I think it might have been. Who did he give McMichael to? I can't remember.
Your fourth and fifth guy.
Yeah.
Whoever you can throw at him. And then after the promo, there was commercials. And they left them in there. For Dentine, Super Soaker, and Hot Pockets.
And I remember that Super Soaker commercial very well. I remember thinking that drill sergeant guy was crazy as hell.
Yeah.
That damn guy. Very well cast, that guy.
Oh, yeah. For sure.
I had forgotten all about that commercial, but it's interesting that they left all three of those ads in there for this. Props to the network.
Totally out of the ordinary, because the commercials they leave in are typically for like WCW type stuff, like the magazine with the little kid that's talking with Sting's voice and all that kind of stuff. They left Dentine, Super Soaker, and Hot Pockets. Very bizarre.
And it might have been the beginning of this Nitro where we get Jimmy Hart talking about how, I got my Hog Wild t-shirt.
And he's got the Hog Wild jacket. Fucking $85 jacket. An $85 denim WCW Hog Wild jacket. You kidding me?
Dude, but don't you think that's about what that shit would cost today?
No, that shit would be... A denim jacket like that would be way more expensive now.
You think so? That
Everything's
price...
more expensive these days, man.
Well, it is, but I thought the T-shirt I wrote it down somewhere, like $24.99.
That's expensive as shit.
Or $21.99, and I think I saw like the $4.99 or $5.99
shipping and handling.
Yeah, honestly, like that's about what you would pay today for that little shitty T-shirt.
Probably so. But who would buy an $85 denim jacket? And the interesting thing is, like, I think that's the only Hog Wild there ever was. The rest of them are called Road Wild.
Oh, dude, when I typed in Hog Wild into the search bar on the network, I got a grand total of one result.
Yeah.
And it was the 1996 one we just got.
The next one they call it Road Wild.
Yeah.
Up next, DDP versus Eddie Guerrero for the Battle Bowl ring. It was a short match, fit into the Clash of Champions mold here. but it was really, really good. I thought both men came off strong. Eddie gets the win with the frog splash. Then this sets up the post-match shenaniganry from DDP. He ends up giving him 2 diamond cutters in the ring, and then he gives him a third one off the top rope that brings out Chavo to make the save. What were your thoughts on this one?
I thought it was a fine match. I enjoyed it a lot. My number one thought about the entire match was how you have 2 guys in Diamond Dallas Page and Eddie Guerrero who have been booked very well, in my opinion, up to this point. Yeah. Don't you think?
Yeah.
But now you have a match where one of them has to go over. So as a viewer around this time period, you're looking at it like, well, both of these guys have a lot of momentum coming in. What's going to happen? You really don't know. But I thought they did a good job with it. I mean, DDP gets to perpetuate his heeldom by doing the diamond cutters out of nowhere afterwards.
Yeah, he gets his
a little
heat back.
feud. Yeah, gets his heat back, sets up a little feud with he and Chavo.
Hollywood Hogan with Mean Gene promo to push the main event. Same tired Hogan shtick. Led to Chris Benoit and the Giant. Woman looked amazing, as usual.
She's the gift that kept on giving around this time.
Trying to take Benoit's vest off, and the Giant drop kicks him and then choke slams him and holds him up there for a month of Sundays.
But, dude, how sweet was that drop kick?
It was good. It was fantastic.
God almighty. You know, and I've been watching him as Big Show now for a lot more years than I've been watching him as the Giant. And I've just forgotten that he was capable of things like that.
So athletic for a big guy around this time.
Yeah, I wish he would put even more of it on display around this time, too. That looked damn good.
Yeah, I mean, could you imagine getting hit by a drop kick from him?
That would suck.
Yeah, it would. It would be terrible.
And, man, my little brother and his best friend at the time were light enough to chokeslam them like that at the pool.
Oh, that's good.
I could just hold them up there while the lifeguards are getting so pissed off.
After the choke slam, Shivani's questioning whether Woman did it on purpose that cost Chris Benoit the match. That whole questioning whether she did it on purpose really didn't last long. They kind of drop it. They say something about it the next Nitro, but they don't really forward it at all. Then you got Steiner, Sting and Luger, Harlem Heat, WCW Tag Team titles, Triangle or Triple Threat rules. At this time, still relatively new concept with the Triangle, Triple Threat, 3-way dance, who are pretty much popularized by ECW. I thought it was a pretty good match with everybody working hard and breaking up pins, kind of your stereotypical Triple Threat tag match. Triple Threat, any match where everybody's breaking up pins, etc.
I enjoyed it a lot. Of course, a lot was still being made of Nick Patrick. You know, can we trust him? Can we not? And I like how guys were tagging themselves in simply by patting the other one's shoulder. And the commentators are talking about how odd that is and how unorthodox that is. And Nick Patrick needs to get his shit together. And these days, you see guys tag in like that all the time.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Definitely.
Not unusual at all.
They just kind of use that, I guess, to push Patrick being a heel ref.
Yeah.
I didn't really care for the finish. I did not remember this particular Nitro or this particular Clash of the Champions. It would have pissed me off. Him being able to count the 3 count, but out of the corner of his eye, he sees the outsiders attacking, and it just was used. The tag match was used to forward Nick Patrick as a heel or a possible NWO sympathizer or a part of the NWO.
This would have made me very mad, too. I do not remember the match. But you want to talk about would have pissed me off. And in spite of the fact that I liked Harlem Heat a lot around this time.
Which is odd because they're heels.
Yeah, but, dude, if I were to just rank them, my favorite tag teams of all time, because of how much I watched WCW when I was a kid, they would be right behind the Road Warriors, right behind them.
Well, I loved Harlem Heat, but I liked the heels back then.
Yeah.
I was a shithead of a kid, I guess, liking heels at 12.
I can imagine you were probably an asswipe. I did not know you were. I did not know you then, but I imagine you were hell on wheels.
Main event: Ric Flair, Hollywood Hogan, World Heavyweight Title. Bizarre seeing Hogan Flair in the style that they worked. You know, usually you see Flair begging off and doing kind of chicken shit, underhanded type stuff, and that was what Hogan was doing. Flair didn't really change up his style, but Hogan, it was like Flair was wrestling himself, in a way. Does that make sense?
It kind of does. We see more offense from Flair for sure, which I like. And what I used to notice back in the day, whoever the top babyface was, or among the top babyfaces for WCW, whoever those guys were, if they were up against Hogan, they usually got a lot of offense into the match. You were behind them as a fan, and they were pushed pretty hard. I mean, they were the potential saving grace of WCW. I hated Flair's guts around this time, but I was pulling for him against the NWO for sure.
Well, and Hogan, all his career in WWF, would just get his ass kicked until he hulked up, and then he'd hulk up, big boot, leg drop, win.
Dude, and the crowd popped a little bit when he hulked up in this match, in spite of the fact that he's a monster heel now.
Yeah. Well, I mean, because, you know, he didn't hulk up against the Giant, but they started cheering him when he hulked up. This time, maybe that's, I don't remember him hulking up past this, so maybe they dropped that, but
they probably did.
I guess it was tough for Hogan to transition as, you know, working a heel type match, but it's just odd because I don't ever remember watching a ton of his matches because they were terrible back then, and they're not good now, but I guess it just didn't resonate with me back then. I don't remember him. It's just odd knowing the type of style that a babyface works or a heel works, and knowing that watching him throughout the years work that babyface style and now being a heel. Does that make sense?
Sure, but I think the crowd had as much of a hard time adjusting to it as anything else. We got got a crowd full of Pavlov's dogs. They see a Hulk up. It doesn't matter that he's a heel. That's going to pop the shit out of them regardless.
Right. Flair puts on the figure four. Hogan pulls the ref down. They push that Hogan might have given up. Flair says that he did give up in a later promo on a Nitro. Outsiders come and hit the ring, but the Horsemen, Sting and Luger, chase them off. That ends the show. So you know that you're getting a confrontation between the Horsemen and the NWO, because Fall Brawl War Games is the Horsemen's deal. Okay, so transition that to August 19th, 1996 Nitro, and so we're going to see more of that build toward Fall Brawl. And they opened the show kind of quizzically to me. The VK Wall Street Hacksaw Jim Duggan. Why are you going to open the fucking show with this? And I know you love Hacksaw, but goddamn, his matches
they usually have
terrible.
They usually have better opening matches.
Yeah, terrible.
And they have an absolutely loaded card around this time. And hell, I don't know if it's because of Hacksaw's veteran status, but he's on just about every one of these cards. You know, you'll see a hiatus from whoever for like several shows, and they'll just pop the hell back up. Hacksaw, hell, he's been on the last several.
This is just a nothing match. Return match from Clash of the Champions. Hacksaw wins with the tape fist gimmick. Then the post-match interview with Hacksaw is interrupted by Macho Man. Macho Man comes out and promos on Hogan. And that kind of transitions into our next match, which very skippable. Chris Benoit, Bobby Eaton, decent match. Benoit gets the win. Then they start pushing War Games, Fall Brawl. You know somebody's going to be fighting in War Games. And then for some reason, we revert back to the old Glacier teaser. I don't understand.
Yeah, why?
They went to they have the new ones because we see the new ones soon.
Oh yeah, no, the newer ones we see his entire body. He's doing his various moves.
Yeah, this one is the blood runs cold, and they just show like bits of his face and his eye and shit. And anyway,
not sure why they did that.
The backstage segment, Mean Gene, Sting and Luger say they have a surprise. Scott Norton, Disco Inferno, nothing match. Ice Train and Teddy Long come out post-match. Norton, Train feud continues. Then you got Dean Malenko, Lord Steven Regal. Great technical clinic of a match. The commentators are pushing that Regal was focused on his singles career. There's a lot of bad blood between the Blue Bloods that's happening on Saturday night and Pro and Worldwide and all the secondary shows. So that Blue Bloods breakup is coming, but Lord Steven Regal says, he wants to focus on his singles career. Shivani and Larry Zbyszko keep talking about that. This is the match that Shivani is breaking down every 3 count or every 2 count that Nick Patrick makes. He's talking about the fast count in the heavyweight title match at Hog Wild, and then he's saying like, oh, that one was regular, and Zbyszko's like, yeah, stop being paranoid.
Oh man, so much was made about Nick Patrick, and they were just uber focused on that guy the whole time. But I loved this match. I absolutely had the most fun watching these two go at it.
So good. Malenko plays a babyface here. Regal kind of works him over most of the match, and then Malenko gets him with La Magistral cradle, little inside cradle kind of. If you don't know what I'm talking about, look it up. It's good. Malenko does it all the time. Bret Hart used to do it all the time too.
Maybe there'll be a sweet-ass little GIF up there of it on our YouTube video when this show is posted.
Maybe.
Perhaps. No pressure, Charles, to go track that shit down.
Or make it, yeah. Then you got the entranceway segment with Gene and the Horsemen. Arn Anderson cuts a great promo. Flair calls them pretty boys and starts running down Hogan. Then you got your boys from Nastyville, the Nasty Boys, Public Enemy. They just brawl like you'd expect. And then your favorite portion of the show, where they separate the match into 2 small screens like they did at Bash at the Beach that you loved so much.
Yeah, but this time it wasn't so distracting. At least you had...
Well, they weren't there. It wasn't on long. They did it for just a little bit.
Yeah, but Bash the Beach, it was on forever, and then I had to watch the shark in the damn water as it lurked around. That's distracting as shit, especially for an ADD child and an ADD adult.
Yeah.
But this, it's funny. They put on a better show here for Nitro than they did for Great American Bash. This was a better match to me.
Yeah, I mean, it was okay. A lot less silliness, and they didn't hit... You talking about with the Bash at the Beach?
Yeah, this was, to me, a better match than that, and that was a pay-per-view match.
Right. Well, I mean, TV matters in WCW. The pay-per-views end up being garbage a lot of times.
I've learned that the hard way. And as a kid, anytime I got to see Public Enemy come out with that table, I knew I was going to get ready to see it break.
Yeah, they break it on themselves this time. Sags moves out of the way. Public Enemy breaks it on themselves. Knobs, Sags, they win the match, and then they cut the regular promo where they're upset because they're on the outside looking in of the tag titles, and yes, Knobs is still friends with Hogan, and Hogan does what he does, and the Nasty Boys are going to do what they do.
And we're the boys! We're the boys! That's every WCW entrance song is like, They feel like they have to like have somebody singing the story of whatever the tag team is.
Oh yeah.
Here's the story of two brothers with Steiner Line. And then there's even something similar with Sting.
Yeah, he's a man called Sting.
Yeah, he's a man called Sting.
And there's other stupid ass lyrics and whatnot within that song.
Oh, of course.
Not that, WWF stuff is that much better, but during the time period, there was not a ton of singing lyrics within songs, this music. But WCW, they always had like here's a little ditty about a man named Chad.
It's true.
It is.
That's the way they felt like they needed to go creatively. It's interesting that they did.
It's very, very odd that they did stuff like that.
Was that was okay? So I can't recall what their theme was in WWF.
Who? The Nasty Boys?
The Nasty Boys, yeah.
It was basically just them. It was like scratching records, and that was it. It wasn't really anything to write home about.
Okay, I see.
So.
Anyways, after that we have Chavo Guerrero versus DDP. Speaking of music, up to this point we don't yet have "Ooh, Chavo"
Bum, bum, bum.
to a smattering of boos.
Well, that doesn't happen until WWF though. He still has the same Eddie Guerrero music around this time.
Yeah.
I didn't dislike Chavo then. I hated him in WWF. I hated his voice. It's so like I don't even know how to describe it. It just pisses me off.
Well, around this time, and he'll cut a promo, I believe, at Nitro 50 that we'll talk about, where he's trying to be all angry and get a little,
his voice is a little too high, but like, I don't know, it's just awful.
It's I don't know, it's like one octave above Ray's.
Yeah, terrible.
And Ray's is high as shit.
I'm not gonna be afraid of you if you're talking to me like that, and you're Smurl Haggard anyway.
No, hell no.
Chavo gets the win, upset win over DDP via backslide. Then DDP diamond cuts Chavo, and he makes Nick Patrick take his belt off, and he whips Chavo with it. I thought that was great stuff. DDP has some good heel stuff around this time.
He really does. Some of those belt slaps looked like they hurt like hell.
Oh, yeah.
He catches Chavo hard in the face, and you know it's legit because Chavo's covering it up and probably cursing Diamond Dallas Page under his breath there while he's landing. You motherfucker, that hurt.
Yeah, exactly.
He's getting just absolutely waylaid with that belt. And that's when Randy Anderson comes out to try to take matters into his own hands, gets on Nick Patrick's ass for not taking control of the situation.
Yeah. Then you've got kind of a nothing match I'd skip. Harlem Heat, American Males. Bischoff made a big deal about Nick Patrick being the ref for the match. Scotty Riggs had a great drop kick on Stevie Ray. Sets up the hot tag. Up next, you had Sting and Luger versus Ric Flair and Arn Anderson. The match never actually happens. Sting calls out everybody. All of the Horsemen come out. And then Sting suggests that he and Luger join Flair and Arn versus the NWO at Fall Brawl instead of Benoit and Mongo. Now, after I watch all these, I've said many times I go back to the old lariats and find the show reports, and around this time, Dave points out that Sting and Luger were upset about not being in the main event of Fall Brawl because it had originally been just the Horsemen against the NWO. So this is the way that they end up kind of shimmying their way in storyline-wise, but they obviously politic their way into this storyline, which makes sense as the storyline goes leading into Fall Brawl. But decent promo from Sting and great stuff from Arn Anderson.
Absolutely. I enjoyed it a lot. Sting sends out the message that, we are the WCW. All of us, collectively.
Right.
It's no longer myself and Luger and the Horseman. We have a problem on our hands that's larger than our feud. And I did think it was a pretty good promo from Sting.
Yeah, not bad.
Otherwise, they're usually bad. Arn's retort, beautiful. Just masterful promo work by him. And he talks a lot about how this is the Four Horsemen's match right here.
Yeah.
And if we're gonna let you in, you're gonna have to be tough as nails, as tough as you've ever been in your whole career. It takes more than just the muscles. He talks about Lex Luger's jiggling pecs and what have you, and a lot's made about how those two guys are pretty boys and what have you. He tells them, you have to put all that behind you. And can we trust you?
Yeah, there's no way that you can give up. That's the way you have to submit or give up, and that's unacceptable. That's basically what he's saying. So a decent promo here, and Flair accepts their offer. He doesn't really go all Flair and crazy. He's just very even keel and says, hey, if Mongo and Benoit step aside, it's your call. And then Mongo,
which I like. And I like how they did that because
really?
Flair, I love Flair pissing all over the place and going crazy and blading his head and all that. But you
liked his candor, the way he was.
For this particular promo, I like that he was calm. And the camera even focuses on him several times, and he looks as serious as I've ever seen Flair.
Right.
It lets you know as a viewer, okay, Flair really cares about this match.
Yeah.
But he's going to go out on a limb, accept the challenge, but him being a loyal horseman, he's going to leave it up to Benoit and Mongo. Benoit, he's cool with it. There's a little fire from him, not much. Mongo, you can see throughout the segment, he's over there just like struggling with these inner demons. God, I hate this idea. This sucks. I wanted to be in this damn match.
Right.
Tells them, I agree to it, but you'd better not fuck up because I'm going to be watching you from afar.
Yeah, I thought Mongo had some decent fire here on promo-wise. So I was kind of impressed.
Sure.
At least he's getting his promos down pat. Well, his in-ring work is not great.
No.
Up next, you had the NWO little commercial. Outsiders are talking about Hog Wild. They're making fun of the Booty Man. Reminds people it's about business and not friendship. They run down Luger and Sting. And this was kind of a nothing segment to me. It was just them kind of just cooling around.
They weren't really in Rome, Italy.
No, not at all.
Where the hell was that?
Because they were in Denver.
In Denver, okay, because I was like, wait, they're not in fucking Italy. And then at one point you do see the sign that says Denver.
Yeah, it was the Denver Post building.
I'm surprised you didn't love this more simply because they left Hogan out of it and they just had the outside.
Well, I liked it, but it was just kind of maybe I would have liked it more if we weren't going through 4 shows.
I am ready to just do one show at a time.
Up next, you had the Giant versus Macho Man. Macho comes out of the gate, attacks the Giant with a chair as he's coming down the aisle. And they're just talking about, hey, Savage is pissed off because the Giant let down WCW by losing to Hogan. Bischoff's pushing War Games while Macho's going nuts. He hits Hugh Morris, hits Bubba, then he hits the Giant, then he hits the Barbarian, then he hits Ming. I mean, he's going nuts. It's awesome. I love Macho Man Unhinged.
Oh, it was fantastic. And Giant took some pretty nice chair shots, too.
Oh, yeah. One of the most impressive parts of this whole segment is how fast the Giant gets from the ring to the stage.
Oh, God. Dude, he jumps out of that ring so beautifully. It was just
I would love to
gracefully
know,
done.
one, how far that is, and two, like, time it. And see how quick it looked fucking quick.
His jump from the ring to the outer apron, that alone
I would
looks
love
so
to have
great.
known. I would love to know what his 40 time was.
I would love to learn more about him in general. There's some pretty interesting stuff out there about him. I think at one point in his life he was very impoverished.
Yeah.
I mean, he was obviously just one of the rarest specimens in the world, quite literally.
Big as shit.
He's huge, extremely athletic.
I wish they'd let him do a little more with his athleticism in WWF. I mean, I know he's older now, but I feel like they limit the way in which he works when he's able to work. But I guess he's limited by his size too. He's he's been kind of fat recently.
But even around this time, I mean, with that drop kick we saw on the previous show,
Yeah, very limited.
We don't see a lot of that
Right.
at all. Not even around this time, as a young man that he is.
That's the end of the Nitro on August 19th, 1996. Interesting to note, as I was reading through the lariats, I found some old rumors, and DDP had politicked to be the fourth man.
Oh, wow.
And rumor had it being Ted DiBiase, but he couldn't appear until after his contract. He couldn't wrestle or appear until after this time period because his no-compete ends, and we know that we know when he shows up, etc. And that Conan could be joining the Dungeon of Doom soon. Was a rumor heading into August 26, 1996 Nitro, which is where we are now.
Fascinating.
August 26, 1996. What is this, Nitro 50?
This is Nitro 50 in Palmetto, Florida.
Nitro 50 opens with Billy Kidman versus Juventud Guerrera.
I didn't know it meant young warrior
Yeah.
in Espanol. I had no idea.
Dude, Juventud, so fun. So fun to watch.
Yeah,
Debut on Nitro. Impressive spots with corkscrew plancha, the run off the top for the win. What'd you think of the post-match with Hoovy and Mean Gene?
I thought it was an absolute shit show. It was so odd.
Like, did WCW not know that Hoovy didn't speak very good English?
I got the impression that it was kind of a work that he has trouble with his English. Because Gene's being very campy with his no habla español.
Yeah, but Gene
we'll try to,
maybe just was being like that because it was a rib on Gene that he was supposed to go talk to this kid that doesn't speak English very well.
it's like I said, this was the strangest thing, and the crowd shit all over it.
Oh, yeah, when he starts speaking Spanish, Mean Gene cuts him off and says, take this up with somebody else.
Dude.
It was kind of shitty, to be honest.
The whole thing, this was Juventud's debut, was it not?
Yeah, but Gene kind of shitting on him is kind of shitty.
No,
and him saying,
is.
take it up with somebody else. Like, okay, fuck, who else am I supposed to get to talk to me?
Yeah, aren't you the guy that people talk to?
Yeah, you're the guy that
on
people
the
talk
TV?
to. I'll try to stumble through this with my Spanglish, and fuck you.
That's really interesting.
I thought it was kind of shitty, to be honest, but...
I wonder if, did they want Juventud to be a heel, and that's why they
I don't
did
know.
all this?
No, I don't think that they ever... Because I don't remember him ever being a heel, necessarily. It's tough for those guys to be heels with the style that they worked.
I would agree totally, but I thought this was a very, very strange segment, and not a good way to let the audience get to know somebody a little better.
Yeah, because they shit all over him speaking Spanish.
It was bad. And I mean, he was speaking some English in there, and the English he did know was good. So how awkward would it be if it was a work that he knows English very well, but he just prefers Spanish, and that's how he's going to get heat?
Yeah, I don't know if he was trying to get heat, though. But up next, you had the new Glacier teaser. Martial arts moves with like a sword and a staff.
Yeah,
he's wearing his helmet and his little shoulder gear and dun-dun, dun-dun. And his martial arts moves everywhere.
I remember being excited about Glacier's debut. And I mean, there was not another martial arts type gimmick in WCW around this time, so it makes sense they would add one in there. So yeah, a brand new Glacier segment. And up next you got Shivani and Zbyszko. They're talking about the upcoming War Games at this point.
Yeah, they pushed it for a little bit, but then you got Jim Powers and Marcus Alexander Bagwell against your boy Kevin Sullivan and Big Bubba. This is an okay match. Teddy Long is managing Jim Powers. Powers comes in, looks pretty good here, though. But then that overarching theme of Nick Patrick being the heel referee comes into play here. Powers gets a hope spot, looks pretty good, and he gets a pin where Nick Patrick counts 3, and then he says that Big Bubba's shoulder was up. Patrick restarts the match, and then Bubba slams Powers for the win, and then they start running down Nick Patrick again. I had forgotten how much they focused on him being the heel ref.
I had to. I don't remember. It seemed not completely out of nowhere. I mean, I remember some of the build toward Nick Patrick being a heel ref, but not this much of it. My focus was elsewhere, man.
Yeah, I just don't like. I mean, and it makes sense from a storyline standpoint. Is it gives you another avenue for the NWO to win and get heat on them using a ref. But I just forgotten how much they had kind of beaten you over the head with it. And it was like he was reffing more matches than I had noticed him reffing before. Because it kind of get that heat on him.
They really only rotated through about, like 3 or 4 referees? It seems like it's
but on this one, it's like him and Randy Anderson, and that's it. I feel like Nick Patrick refs like 90% of the show while this is going on so that he can build up that heat as part of the heel ref gimmick.
Randy Anderson was probably my favorite referee around this time. I don't know what it was I liked. I don't know if it's because he looked like Mario from Mario Brothers, kind of.
See, I liked him. I loved Earl Hebner until the screw job, and now he can go burn in hell.
Oh, here. This has been the Homer Charles segment of At a Combined Weight.
That's right.
It happens every damn episode around this time.
That's right.
There was one referee who we wouldn't see till later, but he was a Smurl Haggard, weighed like 83 pounds, and his whole gimmick was the way he would start the match. He would get all like, he would stand up, he would make such a production out of it, he would raise his little hand up like he's at the pitch of baseball, and ding, 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 he would like point a bunch. But he would,
you talking about Mark Curtis?
I think so.
Brian Hildebrand, he's no longer with us, but referee Mark Curtis is, I think, he was one of the most, he and Randy Anderson, I remember them, because it's like every WCW ref at the time had a mustache. It was like, oh, you're going to be a ref? You have to grow a fucking mustache. Oh, I can't grow a mustache. Or you're not going to be a ref here.
Well, yeah.
You're fired. Get out of here.
Go to some other promotion. You can't be with us.
In-ring segment with your boy Kevin Sullivan and Bubba. Bubba says he should be getting title shots. He's tired of being overlooked, which is interesting to note on the guys who start talking about getting overlooked and not getting respect. all these guys are kind of laying the foundation for that jump to the NWO. Because if you notice, the Giant's going to jump soon. And he starts talking about the lack of respect in his promo later in this show. His lack of respect from WCW that, he essentially had to fight 3 guys and the ref at Hog Wild. And so he's getting no respect. So that's kind of leads to him. And then we've got problems within, you'll see, with Sting because he's getting no respect. Bubba starts talking about how he's not getting title shots. The Nasty Boys are complaining about how they don't get title shots and they're overlooked. But then interesting, and I'd forgotten about this as well, is Bubba cuts a promo on Glacier.
Yeah, this is the first time we see anybody promoing against Glacier. Of course, we had seen the TV packages now about Glacier for weeks and weeks and, hell, months at this point.
Yeah, I mean, since the very beginning.
Yeah, I mean, finally somebody has had it, I guess.
Yeah, Bubba says, hey, if you're coming, then come on, baby. Sets up a future feud, obviously, with Bubba and Glacier. And Kevin Sullivan, your boy,
of course,
accuses Mean Gene of being with Hogan on a boat, and Mean Gene says it was Eric Bischoff, which was odd.
Yeah.
The Bischoff I guess it had a lot to do with the fact that we were young, but the Bischoff turn to NWO kind of seemed to kind of come out of nowhere, but like Dave and the old Lariats and they were all over it. Like he was talking about how Bischoff was going to be a part of the NWO later on.
It did seem to come out of nowhere. I had forgotten that
For
Sullivan
us, it
had.
did. I mean, I guess because we're not smart fans at this time. We're
Well,
kids.
no, we're like doing addition and probably about to learn a tiny bit of algebra and shit. Like we have.
Right.
You're doing summer baseball around this time as a
Oh
as a
yeah,
young
I definitely
child.
wasn't paying attention to
Yeah.
everything it has to do with. And if I was watching a wrestling show during this time, it was WWF.
Ah, I see.
And I was taping Nitro on certain occasions and then taping over them and whatnot. Because I learned how to do that back in the early 90s. So I was very adept at recording my own VHSs.
I see. Well, this is not the first time Sullivan would accuse. No, Sullivan would accuse Gene of being with Hogan, but then Woman would do it later on.
Yeah.
I wonder if maybe a Mean Gene heel turn was.
I think they were just fucking with Gene.
But
I don't think it was ever talked about. How could you? Again, we've talked about how you can't turn Mean Gene heel.
I agree, you can't. It's been said on this show that would be the worst fucking heel turn in the history of professional wrestling.
Go.
Totally.
It wouldn't make sense.
No, it makes zero sense. But I wonder if they were doing it just like in case they wanted to later on. Because I mean, everybody ends up in NWO. It seems like.
That's true. That's kind of true. You had a backstage segment with Sting and Luger, rambling promo about war games, skippable. Mike Enos, Chavo Guerrero pushing Chavo's victory over DDP. Chavo gets an inside cradle win on Dick Slater, who had swapped with Mike Enos for some unknown reason. It was just very insipid booking in this match. But Chavo gets a win, kind of pushing his underdog persona and setting him up to keep feuding with DDP. During this match, though, right before this match started, Shivani announces Hollywood Hogan, Macho Man, for the title at Halloween Havoc because Hogan's not going to put the title on the line at Fall Brawl. The aforementioned Chavo promo that he cuts on DDP, they'll square off at Fall Brawl. Chavo's voice is just too high-pitched for me, especially in this time. It was not good. And I know you have to cut a little bit of promos to kind of build up your matches, but it was terrible.
No, it was. One octave above Ray, just about.
Yeah. Then, pretty solid match. Mr. JL who's Jerry Lynn under a mask. Jerry Lynn, of course, goes on to have a real successful run in ECW and then becomes one of the pioneers of the X Division in TNA with AJ Styles, Christopher Daniels, and Samoa Joe. Funny thing is, and I had this song in my head most of the afternoon today, is JL's entrance theme was a knockoff of My Woman from Tokyo by Deep Purple.
Really?
Yeah, if you go back and listen to it, it's WCW did a lot of these back then. It was all like knockoffs of popular songs. Well, Jericho, his theme song's a knockoff of Even Flow by Pearl Jam. DDP was Smells Like Teen Spirit.
His being the best of the knockoffs.
Yeah, and then this
DDP was fantastic.
My Woman from Tokyo by Deep Purple. Great song. But match is interrupted in the back with Hogan and the NWO spray painting the production truck. And interesting that Shivani points out, he says, I bet you there are only 3 men. We're going to get back at these thugs at Fall Brawl. There's only 3 guys. They don't have a 4th man. It's all talk. And we see that that's Fall City.
Definitely. This is the first time we had seen NWO for life.
Yes.
Written anywhere. That would become such a big part of their gimmick. You even see Nash go for life with the fingers. Dude. And, it was a nice touch. I mean, Ted Turner's got a lot of money. They can repaint that damn truck.
You wouldn't even have to repaint it. You could get it off with some paint thinner and it would be fine.
Yeah, but Ted Turner's got fuck you money. Just take it down there and...
Yeah, but you're not going to repaint the whole thing based on that.
I'm just saying, he's got that kind of cash.
Well, yeah, he does, but...
Just get some of the juveniles downtown to scrub it off with the paint thinner. They'd like that job anyway.
It's odd. This match was odd to me. At one point, JL is on all fours like it's an amateur wrestling. He gets down on all fours, and then Ray does some lucha shit. And then Mysterio gets down on all fours, and then JL kicks him in the ribs. I love that. I love some good heel shit.
It was interesting that he challenged him that way. The total bait and switch, so he probably just setting up the kick.
Yeah, of course.
If I get him to do this, I can kick him in his damn ribs.
Yeah, it's good heel stuff. I loved it.
Yeah.
Ray gets the win with the Rana double leg pin, which looked a little sloppy, but pushing Ray's pinning match with Malenko, cruiserweight title. Ray's meteoric rise at this point, and he never really gets his heat back with the NWO. Like, he doesn't even say anything about getting thrown. He said something on that one promo where Eddie and Chavo are talking, and then he just stops and holds his head. But he never says anything about it. He's never like, hey, will y'all get a cruiserweight guy so I can face him or what? I mean, shit.
I mean, you're right. He never
addresses that at all. It's been totally dropped since they were to MGM.
It's true. Malenko was at the entrance ramp watching the match the entire time.
Right.
And
that's what Ray talks about to the camera. Says, I know you're out here, get ready, come for the belt, blah, 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 blah.
As he's cutting his eyes at Malenko, looking back at the camera, this is awkward.
Yeah, because Ray's so good at talking and whatnot. Then we've got a backstage promo with Benoit, Mongo, and the ladies. They cut a promo on Sting and Luger. Mongo says that he and Benoit should be in War Games. I didn't like this segment. I thought it didn't really make sense that they were fine with it last week, but now they're not fine with it, so we're going to have a match. I thought it was lazy booking.
Yeah, that Gene points out how Dave Wanstead of the Chicago Bears wants you back at training camp. And he had talked about the hotline, and I like McMichael's retort of, I'm not here to substantiate any of your hotline shit, okay?
Yeah.
I thought that was a funny way to be able to just kind of bury that and move forward.
Right. Then
Yeah,
we've
not
got
a
Macho
great
Man going fucking nuts, pushing Halloween Havoc, Savage, Hogan. He's saying he's crazy, doesn't care. He's going to bowl through everybody. And, Macho just being unhinged.
Macho and Mean Gene are just a classic pairing, man.
They really are.
That just so we've talked about how well they work together and how good of a job Gene does with just certain people. And I could show this promo to my grandkids and they would think it was funny. That'll be so many years from now. But to me, this will always be just great television, dude.
Yeah.
These two.
Up next, Hacksaw versus the Giant. A nothing match. Hacksaw tapes his fists, and then the Giant choke slams him. And Bischoff and Heenan are talking about there not being a fourth man early in the match, and then we see none other than the $1 Million Man, Ted DiBiase, who I love. I love Ted DiBiase. Also had a great action figure, the black suited Hasbro. He had great punching hands. But he couldn't... what I didn't like about the Hasbro figures is they weren't flexible, so he couldn't do the $1 Million Dream.
Well, didn't the Hasbros, their feet, weren't they just kind of like stuck together and planted into the ground?
They were stuck together. They weren't stuck together, they were stiff. Like most of their legs did not move. His in the black suit did not move, but his in the green suit moved a little bit.
Dude, he might have even had a wrestling buddy.
Yeah, he definitely did. It was green.
Wrestling buddies were fantastic. I had the Road Warriors.
I had Hogan, Savage, and the Ultimate Warrior.
Oh, wow. So you had all three of those guys. See, my parents were wise to get a tag team because there were three of us boys.
Yeah.
So you couldn't just get one wrestling buddy. That would have been bullshit.
Yeah. I got a bunch when I had a WWF themed birthday party for my either 5th or 6th birthday maybe.
Oh, that's awesome.
And I remember that's how I ended up with multiple wrestling buddies, because my grandmother, grandfather, they bought me one, and then a buddy of mine bought one, and my aunt bought one, and I ended up getting a ring from my parents and this beanbag that had Hulk Hogan, Hulk Hogan, Boss Man, and Jake the Snake on it.
Dude,
was
had
sweet.
I known, I don't know why my parents never gave me the option to have a wrestling birthday party. I mean, they knew how much I was into it.
Oh, dude, my birthday cake was a wrestling ring. This chick that my mom knew, did birthday cakes, and it was a wrestling ring. It was badass.
Oh. That is badass. I guess the closest thing I ever had to a birthday-themed wrestling birthday party was when Dad took my brothers and I to Thursday Night Thunder. That was I mean, it was pretty damn sweet. But a wrestling-themed birthday where you're gifted a bunch of wrestling buddies and a ring, and
around this time period, I got Nitro tickets for my birthday.
Oh, sweet.
During this time period. We've got a Nitro coming up in September that was in Birmingham. And it's leading up to the Halloween Havoc build, because they beat the shit out of Macho and paint them all up and stuff. And my mother thought it was insanity.
Oh, I'm sure that's not in line with what the pillar of the community condones.
So Ted DiBiase's shown walking through the crowd, very reminiscent of Scott Hall showing up. Sits ringside during the match. Then he counts up to 4 fingers, and then he says, next week, number 5 is showing up. And then a post-match promo with the Giant says Macho's scared of Hogan, scared of the outsiders. Nobody's giving him respect. And Macho's not going to make it to Halloween Havoc because there won't be anything left of him after Fall Brawl.
I love Mean Gene's the handkerchief to the camera lens. I sure can get messy around here.
Well, I mean, that's what happens when they got it screens right up to Giant's, and he's spitting all over the place.
Dude, no, Giant, I've watched him enough now. He can't promo without spitting.
Oh, yeah.
It's out of the corners of this is gross as shit. It's not like accidental spit, like I'm talking, bam, there's spit. It's just like
Spit.
it's all it's all over the place. It's so gross. I'm like waiting for it as I watch them. Oh God, here it goes.
Yeah.
Fuck.
Interesting that in reading these old lariats, they said that Ted DiBiase could not appear until after his contract was over on August 28th. And look at how he appears. He appears as a fan, and Bischoff points out that he bought a ticket. And they don't acknowledge, they don't talk to him or anything. They just show him on camera so they could honestly say that he bought a ticket. It's just kind of needling WWF. I thought it was really well done.
I like how they talk about why he could be there. Bischoff's, let's be optimistic here. He could be the fifth horseman, could be coming out of retirement, and he's going to become another horseman. So I think you have to have that because it can't be a bunch of predictability. So this is the fourth guy. This is how you're going to bring him in.
Right.
It's obvious who he is. We've seen Scott Hall and Kevin Nash sit front row of a match before. We've seen this shit before. So very wise of them to maybe present another option to the fans.
Right. Rock and Roll Express, Ric Flair, Arn Anderson up next. Third time we've seen this particular match. Not bad. Old school tag match. Arn hits the DDT. Horsemen get the win. This is basically just pushing the idea of the Horsemen in the main event at Fall Brawl, War Games. Post-match, Arn and Rick Anderson promos on the NWO, and then Flair, of course, starts promoing on Hogan, says Hogan gave up at the Clash. And then he goes nuts, talking about War Games being in Winston-Salem.
God. Home of the, by God, Horsemen! Woo! I love that. I love how he pointed out that it's not in one of the major markets. You can forget about it being in Hollywood. It's going to be in the heart of Horseman country. I thought it was so great. And of course,
it makes sense. I mean, the War Games was for the Horsemen, and it's in Flair country. So
we're starting to see crazy-ass Flair.
Yeah, it's starting up. Debut of the Lionheart, Chris Jericho.
Your boy.
Up next, Chris Jericho, Alex Wright. Yeah, he is my fucking boy. Love Jericho.
He's fantastic, but this is one of your man crushes. This is one of your. Now I'm gonna be hearing about this every time he has a damn match on Nitro.
His Nitro debut. He's been in ECW previously. He was supposed to have debuted at the Clash of Champions, but was bumped. Probably a good move to have him bumped off of that show and debut on Nitro here. He's such a white meat babyface here. He's smiling and slapping hands and clapping for Alex Wright, and then he refuses to win by countout. He requests a no contest because Wright's injured, and then Mean Gene comes over and talks to him and cuts a promo on the NWO. Just, it's such a departure from what he would become.
Oh, it is.
And it's so funny to have read his book and know kind of how he is to what kind of character he was when he debuts.
Mean Gene Okerlund even called it a breath of fresh air.
Yeah.
Given what all they had seen. The crowd did not like it.
No, they didn't. They didn't like that he wouldn't win, and there was kind of a no finish on it. But, yeah, the crowd kind of shits on him. And that's why he turns heel and starts doing his heelish things that ends up getting him over.
He has the little ponytail that sticks right out the top.
I can't wait until he starts feuding with Dean Malenko.
Oh,
Dino Machino, and he starts reading his moves. Oh, such good stuff, man. Jericho is one of the most underrated guys in the business. I mean, think about how many times he's reinvented himself over the years.
He has maintained.
How many guys have done that? None. Zero.
Undertaker.
He's the same character. He's been the same character since he debuted.
No, the hell he hasn't. I mean,
Yes, he has.
He did the shitty gimmick that no one liked, but within, like, there was Ministry Undertaker.
Still the same. He's still dead. He's still dead.
Hey, there's so many, like, cool-ass wardrobe changes.
So he changes his clothes. Fantastic.
But got in better shape there in the mid-2000s and wrestled the best matches of his life there into 2010, 11. Shit.
Get out of here.
I'm going to finish
Jericho was a white meat babyface. Then he was a heel. It was like a chicken shit heel. And then
with the ponytail.
He was the Ayatollah of rock and rolla. Then he debuts in WWF, and he's still kind of a chicken shit heel. But he still has a ton of catchphrases and wrestles fantastic matches. And then he comes back and he does a promo where he's completely silent. I mean, he's had like five or six different characters over the course of his career, and they've all been different.
You think they've all been different gimmicks? You think they've all been like that different to where?
Yeah, I mean, they're different personas within Chris Jericho. Like, if he was a different person, they would be like different gimmicks for different people.
Sure. No, I dig him.
I mean,
Look,
there was one where he was like the No Country for Old Men guy was very similar to him. And then he came back and he was like old school Jericho where he was like, baby, and doing all of his catchphrases. And then what he is now with his kind of like scarf and John Bon Jovi type shit.
Oh, yeah, he's back. He's back to Heel City Johnson. He's had a brilliant career. He's going into that Hall of Fame.
Oh, yeah, he's just so good.
He's there.
And naturally, he's a Heart Dungeon alum. So
can we move on to the next one so you can stop gushing? This is another Homer segment by Charles.
Steiner's Blue Bloods nothing match, pushing the breakup for the Blue Bloods. Squire Dave Taylor and Bobby Eaton, they fight in the ring and into the back. Then you've got the main event: Sting and Luger, Benoit and Mongo. Okay match. I thought it was okay to bad match. I thought it was saved by the run-in. And you got Luger with his typical yelling. Oh! Just overselling it. Did you see, I don't know if you probably didn't notice it, because it was right before Hogan shows up. Sting drop kicks Mongo, and Mongo flies like they just hit him with a truck.
I didn't know. I totally missed that.
Well, then Hogan shows up, and then the Outsiders, and they lay waste to everybody.
They do. Like, Flair is able to get a little bit of offense, but not.
Oh yeah, Flair and Arn come out, and they make the save, and then they get disposed of as well.
Dude, they take the spray paint to the eyes, which looked good.
Oh yeah,
it looked good. They did it well. Like, you can see Hogan kind of like make sure the can is in Flair's face, and Flair immediately starts freaking out. Then that's when he hits the sprayer for the actual spray to happen.
Right.
Looks really good. And there's something about that damn black spray paint in the blonde hair of Ric Flair that looks fucking violent.
Yeah.
It looks humiliating and violent. We had already seen them spray paint a trunk. They spray paint the trunk. The control truck. Not far from them were the Steiners. So he spray paints his back. NWO, they would do the same thing to Arn Anderson. I'm telling you right now, 10-year-old Robert McElroy would have been livid. I used to freak out during these parts of the match. During these parts of the show, so many emotions. I would be so excited that, for instance, Arn Anderson and Ric Flair come in to save the day. I would be up on my feet, screaming, yelling. And then for them to then the NWO makes their comeback, and then I'm as pissed as I was happy. I promise you. I know exactly how I was during these segments.
Well, they beat down Mongo, and they beat down Mongo first, and they spray paint his back. and then the outsider's edge on Benoit. Then they jackknife Sting, and they spray NWO on both of them. And then they end up spraying the damn, like, most of Flair's hair black. And the ring is riddled with trash. And one of the coolest things, I want to point out two things. One, I talk about all the time how cool Hall and Nash are. When people are throwing, like, full cups of shit into the ring, and Nash is, like, spiking them out of the air like he's so fucking good. King Kong swatting planes in New York. It was so good.
It was.
I wonder if it was like just a reaction. I guess it probably was just a reaction, but it just looked cool. Like, get that shit out of here, fuckers. You know?
Man, those fans with throwing that trash in the ring, I mean, these days you don't see that anymore.
Well, no, because you get your ass thrown out.
Oh, you absolutely would.
And they would probably have you on, like, YouTube and Facebook and Twitter, and you'd get, like, arrested and you'd lose your job, and they'd probably stab you to death and shit for throwing stuff.
You would get shit all over for that one on the web, no doubt.
The second thing I wanted to point out is nothing happens to Luger. Interesting to note. See how that
happened to him.
See how that plays out. No, the NWO doesn't touch him.
Well, but like, so he's just laying there.
Yeah,
I did not notice that at all.
In the earlier part of the match, he gets the shit kicked out of him by the Horsemen. Like Mongo and Benoit are working him over, and then he makes the hot tag to Sting, and then he's outside of the ring when everybody starts coming in. He's laying down. So they make it look like he's selling the beating from the match, but will it come into play that he's one of the only guys he's the only guy that doesn't get spray painted?
Yeah, I do recall the hot tag, and then after that.
Yeah, go back and watch it. You'll notice it.
Yeah.
You know how I notice like weird little shit like that. Hogan and the Outsiders, the first time this happens, they go to the broadcast booth, and Heenan runs off. He's long gone. And then they run Bischoff off, and the Outsiders are sitting there, and Hogan says a very famous line that they always show in these NWO retrospectives, and said, it's the NWO. And then he spray paints the NWO over the Nitro logo on the front of the booth.
I loved the anything less would be too civilized, because the right guard ads that had him, and also Brett Favre would do one. Brett Favre sucked really bad.
I think Barkley did one too.
Barkley's was the best. Barkley sold it, man. He's holding the lapels of his jacket. Anything less would be uncivilized. And then Brett Favre's, I remember watching his as a kid and being very disappointed. He's all, anything less would be uncivilized. But Darren Ravel tweeted one day the Hogan right guard, the print ad.
Right.
And I didn't realize until that tweet from Darren Ravel that Hulk Hogan was also a part of that ad campaign.
Yeah.
It's just interesting to me how it all tied together for me.
Yeah, I mean, if you would just think if they had Twitter back then, you would know all this stuff.
Yeah.
But this is the first time we see them in the broadcast booth, and I thought WCW did a good job here. They cut the sound. They made it like it was legit. They control it, so they cut the sound off. And then they replayed DiBiase saying that next week there are 5. So he's the 4th guy, even though they haven't said he's the 4th guy. So I smell an expansion coming.
Can't wait. Can't
War
wait,
Eagle.
Charles. Yes.
That's all we have for the August 26th, 1996 edition of WCW Monday Nitro. I wanted to talk a little bit about rumors and notes coming out of this from notes that I read from the old lariats on PWInsiderElite.com. William Regal will win the television title from Lex Luger on WCW Saturday night after this Nitro. So when we join you for the next Nitro, William Regal will be the television champion. Also, Harlem Heat and the Steiners are supposed to fight at Fall Brawl. That match will not take place because Scott Steiner hurts his shoulder. Now, earlier in the show, I talked about how Diamond Dallas Page had tried to politic to be the fourth man. The original idea for the fourth man was Sean Waltman. He's supposed to be the fourth guy, and he was supposed to debut at Hog Wild. But WWF holds up his contract and saying that he couldn't be the 1-2-3 Kid or the 1-2-3 Kid type of character or use the same moves. But he had been doing that type of gimmick before he even came to the WWF, so there was a big contentious deal with his contract that limits him and limits his debut. He's not going to debut until a later time because of the WWF won't let him out of his contract. Even though originally Vince had said that he was going to let him out of his contract under the idea that he couldn't be anything close to the 1-2-3 Kid type character. Also,
it's so interesting to learn all this now. And as a kid, you have no clue. You assume the good guys are good and the bad guys are bad.
Yeah, it's just all rainbows and show ponies back then, man.
Yeah, dude. And
it doesn't even venture into your mind that contract disputes and guys aren't wrestling because they're in a contract dispute. And, that's why Bret Hart takes so much of a hiatus after WrestleMania 12 is because he's in contract talks with WWF and maybe had gotten an offer from WCW. And you hear that and you're like, no way is he going to WCW. And then all this shit happens in 97. The original plan for the fourth guy after the Sean Waltman plan goes out the window. And reportedly, WCW had reached an agreement, but the British Bulldog, Davey Boy Smith, was going to be the fourth guy. But he had already reached a verbal agreement with the WWF and couldn't get out of it. And he had a contract dispute with them because he didn't like the push that he was getting. But he and Owen were getting pushed toward the tag team titles. And WCW wanted to make a big splash for their anniversary episode, which is upcoming, which will be our next episode. So how awesome would it have been if Davey Boy Smith had been the fourth guy?
It would have been really cool. I mean, the
fifth guy, if you bring in DiBiase.
Yeah. It would have been really cool because everybody in there would have been a former WWF megastar.
At that time, if you had Davey Boy Smith and he was the fifth guy and you had DiBiase and Hogan, the Outsiders, and the British Bulldog, you have guys that were, like you said, megastars that had main evented one of the big four pay-per-views multiple times.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, think about what you have. Hogan is Hogan, okay? And you've got Hall, who had two of the greatest ladder matches in WWF history with Shawn Michaels. Main evented Royal Rumble 93 against Bret Hart. He was a big star in WWF. Same for Diesel, Kevin Nash. He main events a WrestleMania. Feuds with The Undertaker. And then you've got DiBiase, who was a huge, huge star in the 80s and early 90s. He was in the main event of WrestleMania 4 with Savage. And then you bring in Davey Boy Smith. He's a huge commodity. I mean, at this time, he main evented SummerSlam in Wembley Stadium. The only time the Intercontinental title had ever main evented a pay-per-view and he won. I mean, that's a huge deal. He's so much of a bigger star than Sean Waltman. Nothing against X-Pac, and nothing against the Giant being the next guy too, but Davey Boy Smith would have been a way, way bigger deal, I think, from a Monday Night Wars perspective,
I liked the new members of the NWO who would be guys from WWF a lot more than guys who double-cross in WCW anyway.
Me too.
A lot more. It was a much bigger surprise.
And it made more sense.
Yes.
That you hadn't been getting your ass kicked for weeks on end, and then all of a sudden you just end up being a part of the NWO. It's like, well, I can't beat them, join them. I've never been a fan of that kind of idea. It always made sense to me. Like, it made sense that DiBiase joined them. It made sense that Sean Waltman shows up. It made sense that Rick Rude shows up. It makes sense when these guys come in because they're coming straight from WWF.
A true invasion, if you will.
Yeah, and it never really made sense that the Giant jumps over.
No.
Like, after all that time that he's very anti-Hogan, anti-NWO, pushing that, I don't remember their explanation for it, but I know when it happens that I'm going to shit all over it.
Well, I think all we really have up to this point as far as explanations are what Hogan talked about at that one MGM Nitro where he talks about the guys in the back have the double loyalty. Right now, that's kind of all we have.
Yeah, but if
thank
you
God I have,
if
thank
you're
God
the
I
world,
have at least that because, dude, I watching it as a kid, I'm like, but he was like you just said, Giant's been feuding and going through all this shit, and
you were the number one guy. If you're in a kayfabe world, you're the number one guy in the company. Okay, you make the most money theoretically as a kayfabe. If you're the world heavyweight champion, you make the most money, right? You have the most prestige. You are the guy. So the guy that takes that from you in a cheating manner and beats up your friends, destroys the rest of this company, and starts running down everything else, you're going to just be like, oh, okay, I'll join up with you. What logical reason? That's like you walking home from work, and you see these guys loading up a truck and they're stealing all your stuff, and they've got guns, and you're like, okay, well, I'll just get into the car with y'all, and I'll help y'all rob the rest of the neighborhood, because I've got, I can't just get new shit or do any battle with y'all.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing what their explanation is for Giant.
Me too.
I really am. Hell, for Bischoff too, because I don't have a lot of recollection of it at all.
Me either.
Part of why we're doing this show.
Oh yeah. Well, you got anything else?
No, man, I don't have anything else at all. God, we're current, man. We're totally current.
Yeah, we're current.
Years.
When this comes out, it'll be within 20 years to the day of the last Nitro. We're recording this on August 24th, and this last Nitro was August 26th, so we will be current. Here we are, 20 years to the day.
That's right, man.
So, well, that's going to do it for us today. You got anything else? Anything you want to add?
Other than my goddamn gaggle of shit.
Well, yeah, push your social media.
I'm not going to push it. I'm just going to throw it out there. Pushing it would be so douchey. Being _large everywhere but Facebook, Robert McElroy actor. And for Charles the Tyrannical, he's No Bozos. Isn't that what it is? Or No Bozos 2.
Yeah.
No Bozos 2.
You can also follow our show Twitter. It is at A Combined Weight. And if you have any questions, comments, if you actually want to send me a birthday card, e-card, PayPal, whatever, send it to atacombinedweight@gmail.com. Promise I'll share it with Robert, even though I'm the asshole and he's the nice one. You've been listening to At a Combined Weight. Thanks for clicking the link that brought you here. Thanks for looking around. the audio section on PWInsiderElite.com. Thanks for watching our video picture adjoinment to this audio on YouTube. And just thanks for supporting the show.
Definitely.
We'll see you next time. It'll be next episode will be September 2nd, 1996. And it'll probably be out on September 2nd. Looking forward to the build to Fall Brawl. Looking forward to the additions to the NWO and how they explain it, because I don't remember, and we're kind of limiting our information until after we watch things to kind of preclude ourselves from spoilers that we don't remember, if you will. That's going to do it for us today. You've been listening to At a Combined Weight. We'll see you next time.